We're live in the green room.
Good morning, everybody. Today we have such an amazing, great show for you. I know personally, because I work in the cannabis space, I get questions every day about, do I qualify? What is indica? What's sativa? And I can't answer as well as Dr. Barrett. We have the #1 doctor in Florida. He's amazing.
Listen, you're going to swell my head out of the field.
Yeah, that's it. We got like sunshine and roses coming up. But truthfully, he is one of the premier doctors in the state of Florida. We've been blessed to have him here in Venice. He started day one when it became legal in Florida. We have treated over 6,000 patients in this clinic. And today you get to hear from the man himself.
No, listen, it's how I posted it on my page this morning. I want this to be shared with those that are not in the program,
exactly.
Right? So I have a pretty
yes.
wide following, and everybody pretty much knows me in the cannabis space. But and we never sponsor any of our Facebook posts or any of that. But this is what we did because we wanted to get it out into the community. So everybody, you're my first patient, okay? And I almost was going to throw a y'all in there.
Y'all.
No, seriously.
Y'all.
What we wanted to do was open the door to the green room, so to speak.
That's a great way to say it.
Because there's so many people out there that don't really know what the program's all about. And I say that for Doobie One, and we'll get to it. For Doobie One, who's never used cannabis before, still has the fear of cannabis, the stigma of cannabis. And believe me,
it's out there. It's out there. We hear it every day.
We see it every day. To those people that are what I call your Doobie 4 out there, and as I put on my Facebook page this morning, you marvel at their life's success, even though that you know that they're cannabis users.
Under HIPAA, we can't disclose our patients, but let me tell you, it's a full spectrum of every degree under the sun, and
it's just interesting. And it's what I've learned as I've been going to cannabis conferences and conventions over the past 3.5 years. It's the owners of the cannabis companies, the attorneys, many doctors, many chemists, and
business people.
So it's time to rip the wall down about cannabis stigma. But the good news is that's happened over the past 3 years. So let's start into it, Rudy, because what I really wanted to do is kind of, like I said, make everybody out there, especially those who have never been into the clinic before, the first patient. So I think the first thing to answer, and I know the question you get all the time, is who qualifies? Who gets into the program, right? It's always been very mysterious in Florida. And I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on TV, and I'll make no Jewish doctor and attorney jokes because there are many people that are both. They're not me.
Wish we charged what the attorneys do.
But I had some great advice early on. If you look at the wording of the constitutional amendment, and what we've always tried to do in this particular clinic is always follow the state's laws. We've read up on it.
We do. We follow it consistently.
For sure. So what you have to look at are the 11 qualifying conditions that are laid out in the state of Florida, and I can rattle them off, in my sleep, probably backwards and forwards. But it's things like multiple sclerosis, of course, Parkinson's disease, glaucoma, HIV/AIDS, seizure disorder. Okay, there's others. But also, very importantly, is post-traumatic stress disorder, right? And those things that are similar. Likewise debilitating, well, we're going to get back to Crohn's in a second, but similar likewise debilitating conditions of the same kind or class. And that's really important because chronic pain, which is perhaps the most common chief complaint that we get when patients come into the clinic.
Especially with the elderly. And that's the thing too, I think a lot of times we have a lot of elderly patients, people that are well over 65, 70, 75, 80. We have 90-years coming in.
Of course.
And
well, I can say our youngest was 3 and our oldest is 103.
It is. We're like cradle to grave, man. We really are.
So the point is that the chronic pain qualifier in Florida is very poorly handled. And if you really read into the constitutional amendment, you'll see there's an asterisk next to chronic pain. What that asterisk means is that only those conditions that are not currently active can be causing the chronic pain. So an MS not in flare, or a residual of a cancer surgery to the breast with nerve pain, not 3 failed back fusions, not rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis or Agent Orange exposure for a veteran from so many years with a neuropathy, not diabetic neuropathy. So the point is, the nimble physician in Florida who's had good legal advice, who documents charts appropriately, gets history from patients appropriately.
We do ask for patient records.
Can be an advocate for patients here in the state of Florida, because here's the point. Every single person that comes into the clinic wants the same three things. They want to feel the best they can.
Absolutely.
They want to do it in the safest, most natural, most holistic, and most in control by them way that they can.
And truly natural. They want something homeopathic. They're sick of opioids. They're sick of big pharma.
Well,
they're looking for a natural alternative that's non-addictive, that's better for you than any of those pills.
And can never kill you, of course.
And can't kill you.
And the third thing is to be legal.
Yes.
So feel the best you can in the most natural, safe, holistic, controllable way, and to be legal in doing so.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to work with our patients to achieve that goal for them, and this is why. 1/3 of our patients come to us, Ruta, and why I really wanted to have this shared today, as you know, with those outside of the practice, outside of the cannabis world. 1/3 of our patients, everybody, if you come in to see us and you've never used cannabis, if you're deathly afraid of cannabis, if you remember the commercials, this is your brain on drugs.
Or Nancy Reagan,
Cannabis.
just say no.
Just say no. So the point is 1/3 of our patients come from that perspective, and we take great joy in that because we're the experts at teaching patients why this all never should have happened in the first place. And let's talk about it. The hypodermic needle invention in 1901 literally changed medicine, and very much to the good. People say, oh, the needle, terrible. No, the needle was great. IVs, shots, a different way of administering medicine, but not for cannabis, because cannabis uniquely was an oil-based medicine, and it was left behind by pharma, not doctors, by pharma, because pharma couldn't make any money on it. Also, the poppy opiates, it was being imported. Cannabis growing everywhere. It's a weed, everybody.
It's a plant.
So it was roadsides and every colonial farm, of course, had cannabis, both for rope and fiber and
My mom, she had
the
it
colonial
in
flags were made of hemp, things of that nature. And we still need to bring hemp back into society as a construction material, as all these things, so much safer and healthier. But there's so much behind the social, political, and let's bring that into play too. It's been used politically, of course. So anyway, cannabis was shunted aside after the 1891 doctor, so to speak, could be utilizing it to take care of his patients. And it actually took about 30 or 35 years, Marijuana Tax Act in the late 30s, but doctors literally struck against the hospital systems for a few days because they were so incensed that cannabis was taken away from them. Pharma always wins, of course, right? Bowl the doctors over. But then Richard Nixon had a chance to change it in 1971. So in 1971, there was an entity called the Schaefer Commission. It's funny, I used to refer to Dr. Schaefer, but it wasn't Dr. Schaefer. Richard Schaefer was the former governor of Pennsylvania, Republican governor, appointed by Richard Nixon along with 9 others on the committee, 9 Republicans, 4 Democrats at the time. Richard Nixon expected them to come back with a recommendation, to treat cannabis as a drug and a this and a criminal thing, and it didn't. The commission came back wanting to not even put cannabis on the schedule of drugs. But Nixon needed a drug war, and Haldeman has testified to this, and literally ripped up the Schaefer Commission, fired all of them, and then he put it into Schedule I, which offends me as a physician because we're 50 years back from research. But it's also been used for much of the racial and social injustice issues.
Oh God. And as a tool.
It is.
So
It as a tool. So our goal here in the clinic is to make sure that people know that history and to know that cannabis should never be a last resort.
No.
Listen, I'm Western clinician, emergency medicine, 32 years, Ohio State, right, OH. I don't know if Doug Bench is watching today, but anyway, but the point is that it should never have been taken away, right? And it should be utilized on top and in augmentation with conventional, right, Western healthcare. And I always tell my patients, if they come in with a list of pills that long and they're not having significant side effects and they're debilitated and their life is okay, but cannabis can make it better, excuse me, that's a win, right? Because you're getting a patient feeling better who's on a list of meds that tall already. Every single patient in general, and I would never generalize in that way, but most patients want less of their pharma. because of side effects, because of cost, right? Because they know they're 40 years old. How can they take any type of narcotic?
It's literally chemical dependency in a different way, and this is a natural.
It is. So my point is that we work with our patients to reduce their burden of pharma, and they do it on their own, which is quite fascinating.
But now, say I'm a new patient and I'm coming in, and I have to confess to all of you, when I came into this clinic and started working for Dr. Berry, I had no clue about cannabis, and I also had stigmas. I had those predispositioned ideas that, oh, everyone here is a stoner and this, and it could not be further from the truth. And I can single-handedly tell you, patient after patient, day after day, the stories that we hear bring you to tears.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating. So anyways, tell us,
No,
I walk in and I'm a new patient. Do I
sure.
have to smoke? That's the other
So here's
question.
the point.
I don't want to smoke.
I got it, but just to wrap it up to the extent that 33% of our patients will never have used cannabis before, so we're comfortable with you. Come on in. Doobie 2s, they're Doobie 1s. Doobie 2s are those that have used cannabis in the past but can't currently use it now, Ruda, and there's a lot of reasons why people stop. Jobs, kids, marriage, you lose your safe source of cannabis. So if you're buying it up north from your high school buddy for 40 years, and then you move to Florida.
Oops.
Right, so people are in different social, so there's a lot of reasons people stop cannabis. They also stop for 5 months when they come down from up north, right? So if you're a Canadian, snowbirds are allowed in, or coming from anywhere else up north. Florida has 5 A's that are not included in the program, and I want to go back to that because we were talking qualifying conditions. I want to wrap that up. Arthritis of any type, autism, Alzheimer's, autoimmune except for Crohn's, okay, and anxiety. Those are covered up north in many states, but not here in Florida.
Which is insanity.
Listen, and states do what they do. That's one of the difficulties of cannabis in the practice, is that about the country and in fact the world, there's different laws and rules and things of that nature.
And unfortunately, they're not made by the people who are practicing it. And that's the biggest disgrace for even the state of Florida. I mean, call in the physicians who have seen thousands of patients.
Oh, that's another entire show.
That's a whole other show. We'll save that for another week.
Yeah, but the point is that the nimble physician will utilize the wording of the law, right, to put patients into the registry. What am I supposed to do with the Canadian who's now drinking less, off his Ativan, this, that, because he had safe, legal access to Canada, which went legal over the past couple of years, right? You have an Ohioan who's got Alzheimer's that's down here for a season. What is their family supposed to do? I'm not going to send that family to the black market, right? They need safe, legal, educated access to cannabis. So the Doobie 2 is key. Doobie 3s, current adult users of cannabis, right? And Doobie 4s would be Willie Nelson and Snoop and a couple other people I know. But the point is, the Doobie 4s are fascinating to the Doobie 1s, and the Doobie 1s know Doobie 4, Snoop and Willie, but they don't know Doobie 3 banker, okay? Or Doobie 3 lawyer, or Doobie 3 successful, you know, they think they've got to be in the trailer community, sitting there eating chips and ice cream and watching Jerry Springer, you know, wait for Steve to come on next. So my point is that good cannabis clinics with advocate physicians know how to use the wording of the law to put their patients into the registry. You want to be going to an appropriate clinic, making sure that if you have medical records, you bring them in with you, right? You want to give your history to the physician, right, in that manner, and they'll work with you in general.
And we do see children. That's the other question we get, especially a lot with autism.
Autism's interesting, and you know, turn off the OMU. Turn off the OMU.
And that's a whole other show too.
Well, it is, but listen, autism is interesting because to me, autism is not covered in the state of Florida, but every single parent and that autistic child has some degree of PTSD, anxiety, depression, sleep disorder, learning disorder. And here's the thing about it, and let's get to this. So the first of the D's in our 5D teaching visit, right, is the determination of debilitating condition, right, and how we qualify patients. We're an advocate practice. We explained why. The second D is the Doobie status of the patient. So we like to say we meet the patients where they come from. If you're here and you've used cannabis for years, we're going to teach you this. If you've never used cannabis before in your life, we're going to teach you that and this too. So, and we'll get to it. And let's talk about the autistic mom for a second. The autistic mom, Ruda, is typically coming in having already tried a CBD product for their child, with their child. So let's talk about THC and CBD, or what we call our third D, the duality of the plant. But just to back up for my advocacy for that autistic mom deserves safe, lab-tested product, not just an isolate of CBD, but all the spectrum of cannabinoids. So let's talk cannabinoids. So THC, THC.
And I have a display.
Yeah, good. Perfect.
Yes, we
So
do.
THC, guys, that's the drumbeat of the prohibitionist drum, okay? They only want to talk about THC. THC would be the cloud of smoke hanging over Woodstock, okay? That which revered by the Jamaicans but despised by the prohibitionists because it is the psychoactive component of the cannabis plant. Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. These are the receptors, the CB1 and the CB2 receptors of the endocannabinoid system. Still not taught in med school, but we like to call it the 13th organ system of the body. But here's the point. Only THC is your quote-unquote mental intoxicator. There are effects of CBD, so you can't not say that CBD has no mental effects, but it's mild. It's not quote-unquote hallucinogenic or intoxicating, but it can be very nice for depression, anxiety. But the point is THC is THC. One of the only 144 at least cannabinoids, right, that come out of the ground with the plant. So THC stands alone. CBD would be the queen of the other cannabinoids, so to speak, right? And the reason that it is that it's the most prominent by volume in the plant, right? But you have to know that there's 142 others. CBC, CBN, CBG, okay? CBN being well studied now for sleep. For example,
and there's
absolutely.
There's one for weight loss too.
That would be THCV. But the point is there's an entourage effect that's created by all of them. And the entourage effect is really where you get to your beauty of the medicine. And here's what's so important in Florida. In Florida, uniquely, we started out with oil-based products and not necessarily flower-based products. That taught me as a new doctor coming into cannabis, because none of us are trained in this, okay? How to utilize the ratio, or what we call the duality of the plant concept to best help our patients. And here's the example. Grandma Doobie One, who's never used cannabis before, we're going to make sure that she gets the advice on using a high quality, lab-tested, full-spectrum CBD and the others product up here, and then your THC level down here, right? So that would be CBD up and THC down for her, and then she brings her THC level. Why is it always
he or she?
I don't know why. He or she brings up that THC level to find that balance that works best. Yeah. Uniquely, it could be this during the day at a 1-to-1 ratio, so to speak, and then at night, something stronger. But we don't want that Doobie One newbie to get into the opposite product. 1 CBD ratio to a higher THC ratio. And in Florida, these are pre-mixed and blended in many of the different dispensaries. And I promised I was going to try and not mention any one specific dispensary today because we love them all. And the products that are available in Florida offer that unique ability to balance the ratios. Here's the interesting thing, that Doobie 4, Willie Nelson type guy who thinks he knows everything, and that's why I put it in my post this morning. Whether you think you know everything or you know nothing, you still want to come into the clinic to learn, because that Doobie 4 guy has no idea about the CBD and the other cannabinoid side. Oh, doctors here to get legal, you know, and it's all, listen, we cry in the chairs with the Vietnam veteran who says he's been to the VA for years, hasn't been able to discuss openly his cannabis use, right?
Or they're, you know, we had
They've had the narcotics thrown at them, the Prozac thrown at them, the
and they said they're a
Seroquel,
vegetable
the
out on a
Remeron.
sofa, they can't function.
All they want to do is use their cannabis freely, and they'll cry in the chairs over because now they're 70 years old, they're retired, and they can. But they couldn't while they were working and everything. For all, so that's another whole show. But the point is, that guy learns about the CBD and the other cannabinoids, Ruta, and that's one of the greatest joys in the practice, is having these guys thank us, okay, when they come back for the educational discussion. And I have the 3 greatest educators in the biz. Okay?
We have to
Our
give
staff,
a shout out
we
to our
do.
staff, because honestly, as far as educating, they are top notch. They've each seen thousands of patients.
No doubt.
They sit with you one-on-one. They'll answer any question.
Well, we do. We help with the
any
card
fear
process,
you have.
the
They
picture
help-
process, but more
we
importantly,
walk you
it's the
through
teaching.
everything in the teaching, and we make you comfortable.
How much time we got, Don?
Looks like we got 10 minutes.
All right, good.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And we'll
So-
throw up that graphic too at the end,
Okay.
just because it's a little
But
blurry.
here's the point, is that we believe in whole plant product. There's a name for it. It's called the entourage effect. right? And that's going to get really important when we get into the 4th and the 5th D, because there are flower products available in Florida, of course, for inhalation, right?
As of for 1 year now.
Yep.
March 23rd, actually,
Yeah,
of
was
last
the
year. But anyway, the
anniversary.
point is that all the different delivery techniques and the products available, the point is Florida has an outstanding, in my opinion. Is it perfect? Is it the best in the country? It's not perfect, and I don't know if it's the best in the country, but I've been to a lot of states, and really the products that we can offer our patients are very unique. There's creams and patches and the under-the-tongue oils, okay? Of course, inhalation products by vape and or flower. We don't call whole flower in our practice smokable cannabis, right? We call it, we call it whole flower, great. We call it whole flower access cannabis, so that we can teach people how to make a tea out of their cannabis, right? How to make tinctures and magic butter, all kinds of different things, dry inhalation
And those who can't
techniques.
see, these are some examples.
Yep.
You have pills, you
Right.
have oils, you have vape
So we're still
pens,
working on
so
the
these are
edibles
some-
in
we still have
Florida.
some edibles,
So
but
people
these are
want
what they look
cookies
like.
and candies, but there's powders that you can put into drinks. There's mints that you can put in between your cheek and gum. Walt Garrison, you got to be able to remember that. So anyway, so the point is, it's that duality concept that allows us, and we have a phrase for it here in the clinic. Safety is 100%. I got to bring this back up, Ruta, sorry, because I forgot to mention probably the most important thing. These CB1 and 2 receptors do not control breathing. They never have, they never will. That's why nobody dies from cannabis. The breathing is based, respiratory centers in the brainstem, on the mu receptors. So no matter what, you may giggle your way into the refrigerator, okay, one night, or change from MSNBC to Fox.
Oh God.
But you're always going to wake up in the morning.
Never
So-
like that.
No, so seriously,
I don't care what you take.
I don't think that strain exists. But anyway, but the point is, we'll have families bring their elderly family members in, and they're on like Percocet 2-4 times a day, and gabapentin, and something for sleep, and they're worried about THC. I want to reassure everybody out there, listen, everything in the world can be abused. But the abuse of cannabis is rare, and even an overdose of cannabis will never kill you. So we believe in safe, educated access to cannabis. That's the philosophy of the clinic. So the 4th D is these dispensaries. And, Don, why don't you go ahead and span around a little bit so everybody gets a little bit of a shout, because I know we got certain people behind us. But the dispensary world is vigorous here in Florida, and we're lucky. Literally, especially in our area, there's probably 8 or so at this point, organizations, right? And it's in Florida, it's important. Once again, a question people ask. In Florida, it's what we call a vertical system. It's seed to sale. They have to plant it, they have to process it, they have to sell it, they have to deliver it, all within one company.
And one question, the biggest question we have is, how do I get a card?
Sure. So, So the bottom line is, once you get your card, you have access to these wonderful dispensaries. But
I don't even know how to get a card. So
by sublingual, by this, by that. So how to get a card? Listen, how you get a card is you find the appropriate medical clinic and doctor, right? So listen, we're here in Venice. It's VeniceCare.com. We've been here since January of 2017. But I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of great cannabis clinicians out there, right? And I could shout out a bunch of them, but I know I'd leave one out, and then I would feel very bad about it. But you know what? I do want to say one thing before we end up. I want to express my condolences down to Fort Myers and all the medical cannabis patients down there.
Extremely sad
Dr. Raman Murthy, who had a very large cannabis practice,
She did.
passed away suddenly.
Yeah, from a stroke. Very sad story.
And
51 years old.
And I understand that she was a fantastic advocate and teacher and cared very much for her patients. So, I'm 64. I hate to even think about my mortality, but I will tell you this, everybody. It drives me forward to make sure I try to make a difference every single day, not just for my patients, but for the system in general. So how do you get a card? Listen, find a doctor. You can go to the Office of Medical Marijuana site, OMU site. Surely I would reach out to those that may be already having their card to get their experience on the clinic they went to. Call and ask questions.
Trust me, you want to go to somebody that you trust and somebody that's reputable.
And somebody that's going to be there.
And that's going to be there. We have a lot of horror stories, and unfortunately those make the media. Sometimes that there's physicians out there that are not practicing properly.
Right.
That's
so now
what
you
sets
still have
us
to be
apart.
seen physically. Ruta and I have our masks.
Yes, we do.
So the state, when they put out the original emergency order, allowed for various medical practices, right, to do telehealth. And they made, I'm so glad we got to this, they made cannabis essential medicine, everybody.
Isn't that amazing?
So come on in and learn why. But the point is, I'm not going to ever give back that equity that we've gained from being deemed as essential medicine. And it was really important to people.
And we
forget.
should give it up.
The dispensaries had to continue to grow it. They had to be able to continue to process it and deliver it.
And sales went up. I mean, and
listen, there's never a time not to have a cannabis recommendation, Ruta. And that's maybe our next green room talk would be the Toxic Soup of 2020 talk, or what I call my whittling talk. But my point is that, listen, we're here every day, find a clinic that also, that's what they do.
Do education and do advocacy.
Some primary care physicians are coming along and doing it within their practices now. But make sure you ask the right questions. Make sure that you're going to get the orders that will enable you to stay off the black market. That's a very important point. If you've never used it before,
but you also,
make sure your doctor mentions THC, CBD, the delivery routes, all those things.
And you want somebody that if you come in and you've never used, you have to feel comfortable. And you want somebody who's going to start you, as we say, low and slow, because you may go to the dispensary, they may give you some products, you may go home and not feel so great, maybe you sleep too much, maybe you can always follow up with us with a quick phone call, come back to the office, sit with our staff.
We do. Every office has their own routine and policies, but ours is we have no follow-up charge, everybody, in between our 210-day visits. It's just what we do because fortunately we're busy.
People don't know that too. So just so that you know, when you come in, there's a fee for the visit for the doctor's office. Yep. There's also a fee that's given to the state.
$75 to the state.
And that's not, it's out of our control. It goes directly to the state.
And listen, to talk about issues, veterans access, free veterans card, job protections, nursing home access, hospital access, additional qualifying conditions. So when you come into an advocate practice also, we're up there fighting, for those issues. I like to say I get a bloody nose at least once a year from taking it on the nose from one of those politicians. But we're going to continue to fight for all of it.
We will continue to fight. But just so that you know, again, if you're new, come on in. If you want just to come in and do a quick tour, just wear a mask. We'll take your temperature outside. We're still, COVID-19 sensitive because we do see patients.
No, we need to be. Listen.
We need to be. So as a courtesy to our staff, a courtesy to you, we all.
But we are open door, and that's to the press, to politicians, to patients that just want to see what's going on, and that's why we wanted to open the door to the green room today, everybody.
And to let you all into our practice, and it's not a scary space. It's a really super friendly space. It's educational. You'll come out learning so much. I know I did when I first came in here for a job.
And listen, we're still learning every day.
Every day.
So if you want to come into a practice where the doctor doesn't think he knows everything, believe me, you're coming into the right place, because one of my joys right now in the medical cannabis world is that I'm both a speaker to teach and a listener in the audience to learn.
Which
right?
Is really
and that's, listen, the important things in cannabis have not even happened yet. I listened to a panel a couple weeks ago, and I was so struck by that. That would be the national, nationwide, quote-unquote, legalization or, descheduling of cannabis. That hasn't happened yet. And the discoveries of further medical advances of cannabis.
Well, they won't allow it because
which have been impeded for the past 50 years.
And that's a whole other subject.
So to me, we're only scratching the surface right now. And that's the exciting thing for me. I wish I was 34 instead of 64, but I'm going to do this till I'm 90.
Your energy level is out of
I'm going to do this till I'm 94. I tell that to everybody. I did emergency.
And so is your passion. And honestly, our place is called Compassionate Cannabis Clinic, and you cannot find a more compassionate physician, I swear, anywhere. This man loves his patients, and he thrives off the energy of this building, because when people come in sick and not feeling well, and they leave, they get their card, and they come back after 210 days, and their life has changed, they're not in pain, they're happier, their family's happier, their children are happier. It's such a unique feeling.
It drives us. It drives us every day.
It drives this practice every day.
So you'll see honest joy here.
It is.
And that's not to say that every day is peaches and
if anyone
roses,
has any questions, please, on my Facebook Live and on the Compassionate Cannabis and Venice Care, please ask your questions. We're not shy. We'll take any question you have. If it's a vote of confidence and you want it in confidence, I can private message you, and we can ask the question to Dr. Barry and private message you. But please know we're an open door. We take every single question you have, every concern. We don't want you afraid of cannabis. We want it to be something that you can go to as a plant, as a alternative to big pharma, and that's really
It's
our
important.
goal.
I like to call it being the 2020 doctor in 2020,
Yeah.
and
It
not
is
and not
2020.
continue. It's 2020.
It
you
is
know,
2020.
and we have to know that the stresses
And
of
I
2020.
have to always do my political thing.
Yep.
Vote for people who support the cannabis industry, especially for those who utilize it or those who want alternative to big pharma. Please find the candidates out there who are going to be supportive of this as an alternative to big pharma and support them and vote. Because we don't want more restrictions, we want less. Our veterans want less restrictions. Obviously that's a federal decision, but we need to put emphasis on that for the lawmakers and help our vets and just everyone in general.
No doubt. So wow, this is great. Listen, I really enjoyed my first patient encounter of the day.
This was
If it was 1 or 1,001, Don, I'm teasing you, but I'm not. So listen, everybody, stay safe, be healthy, and feel free to reach out at any time. VeniceCare.com, info@VeniceCare. I suspect.
and we love the green room, so
Yes.
stay tuned next Thursday.
Next
we'll have
Thursday.
another episode, and
It's good therapy. I'll be honest with you.
It's good therapy for me too, so
Indeed.
it's all good.